Welcome or welcome back to the Infinite Library. I'm Kyla, and today I realised I hold way too many books over the past 6 months ago or so, since August. So this is me kind of shaming myself by showing everything that I hold, and my intention to hopefully get through a lot of these next year. So in a year, if I review this video, I'm hoping I will have read a good portion of these, and that there'll be ones I like as well. Also, it very handily fell on a day where I got book mail of something very anticipated for me. 2 books, actually. Wasn't even intentional. I was just about to film this today, and then they both arrived. So I figured it would get added onto this. All these books are from about August time. I get books from all different places. Some of them are subscription books. Some of them are from bookshops locally that I go to, whether it's more independent bookshops like Queer Lit, whether it's bigger bookshops like Waterstones. I also do get some books via charity, thrifted, secondhand books. I'll often get if it's series that I'm kind of interested in, but I don't necessarily want to pay full price because I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not. So I have hauled about over 50 or so books since August, which is a bit embarrassing. I'm gonna get better at not doing that next year. So let's go through them all, and yeah, you will see what I got, I guess. So I started off around August with getting the 25th anniversary edition of Hulls by Louise Seisha. I read this so long ago. I read this in high school, and I just got a real burst of nostalgia for it all of a sudden when I was researching some middle grade stuff. And then I realised that it had been 25 years since it came out, and then I was just like, I really want to reread it, so I got it. Have I reread it yet? No, but I'm going to. There's definitely a couple of nostalgia books at the beginning of this. I then, on my nostalgia bend, when I was in charity shops, managed to find some Roald Dahl books, the BFG and The Witches. These were 2 of my favourites. I already still own Matilda, and for some reason I've got a copy of George's Marvellous Medicine. So I don't love all of Roald Dahl's books, but I've kind of been wanting to recollect the ones that were my favourites when I was a kid, so these were 2 of them that I picked up. Then you'll have already seen these, but I did get the Complete Adventures of the Worst Witch by Jill Murphy, which is all 8 books, and I read all of them. So for a vlog in October that I did where I reread one of my old favourites, and it was this one. So that is one I have actually read. I then bought a book for my book club, which is The Darkness Outsiders, and I did read this one. I really enjoyed it. It was a 4-star. I also, secondhand, although it's in remarkably good condition, picked up a copy of Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is my book club book for January, so I am definitely going to be reading this one soon. I also picked up one of the old book club books I took out from the library originally, and that is A Marvellous Light by Freya Marske. This is part of a series. I have the sequel, A Restless Truth, as well. I don't have the 3rd book yet. I read this from the library originally and I really enjoyed it, so I managed to pick up a physical hard copy of it. I think this was also a second-hand one as well, from what I remember, but it's in perfect condition, so yeah. Next, I picked up some manga. When I was at Forbidden Planet, I think at one point, I took advantage of the 3 for 2 deal. I got the 2nd volume of Dickify Island, as I loved the 1st volume, and I did read this. I also picked up 2 books that I've just heard a lot about and really want to read. So I picked up the 1st volume of Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, which is a kind of cozy fantasy sort of thing with elves, and she does sugar crafting. Has an anime as well, but I really wanted to try the manga first. So I picked up the 1st volume of this. And I also picked up the 1st volume of Seaside Stranger, also known as Umibi no Etranger, which is a BL sweet romance series. Then I picked up a couple of middle grade books. Again, I was still kind of doing my middle grade research at the time, so I picked up some books that I'd heard a lot about that really intrigued me. So I picked up the first Imari book, finally, Imari and the Night Brothers. So looking forward to getting to that soon. I also picked up Green Glass House, which is probably a really good one to read over winter actually, but I don't think I've put it up for my Christmas TBR, but this is kind of like a wintry ghost story. Sounded really interesting. I know it's quite popular. Then I managed to, funnily enough, find 2 books that would just happen to be on sale in the library, and the 2 I was quite interested in. So one is a reread for me, and that is Skellig by David Almond. This is one that I got really nostalgic about, and I really want to reread it. I loved this a lot when I was younger. And I also managed to pick up To Kill a Mockingbird, which I've never read, heard a lot about, feel like I really should have read it by now, so pick that up and hopefully I'll read that next year. On to some special editions as well now. I managed to get the Fairy Loot edition of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This is like a YA fantasy kind of thing. I'd accidentally already bought the paperback at like a thrift shop like a few months beforehand, and I completely forgot about it, so I'll probably pass the paperback on and keep the Fairy Loot version with its like really gorgeous sprayed edges that it has. Some really pretty end papers and really pretty sort of like inside stuff going on. So yeah, picked up that. I picked up another manga. This one is for a little project that I'm going to be doing next year, and so I picked up the first volume of A Man and His Cat, which is just this really cute, from what I can tell, story about this really ugly cat that no one wants to adopt and this old man that kind of falls in love with him. And it just sounds really cute and really cozy, so I'm excited to get to this soon. I picked up T. Kingfisher's latest fantasy novella, Thornhedge. It's super short, but I really love the design for this, and I want to read more T. Kingfisher, so I have that to read. I also have the Illumicrate version of A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. I really wanted to get to this a bit sooner, but I've just not had time. But it is gorgeous. I really love particularly the naked hardcover for this. It is beautiful. I've heard really good things about it, and I love gothic stories, so what's not to like about that one, really? We're getting into some spooky books now, some stuff that I read around October, Halloween time. I picked up It Came From the Closet, Queer Reflections on Horror, which is a sort of non-fiction group of essays all about horror movies from queer creators. This was really interesting, really recommend it. I did read the majority of this throughout October. There's just a couple of essays I haven't read yet because they're movies that I haven't seen yet, but really recommend it if you like horror movies. It's really good. I bought my book club book, which was Hell Followed Withers. Did read this, really enjoyed it, another 4-star. I then have what I believe is the Fairy Loot YA book for probably that month, If I Have to Be Haunted. Not crazy on the book's premise, to be honest, but I'll give it a try and see if I like it or not. I then had a burst of nostalgia during October for some old Buffy books I used to read, and I managed to find really cheap online one of the old Spike and Drew novels, Pretty Maids All in a Row. I loved this one back when I read it years ago, so I really wanted to give that a reread at some point. I managed to pick up secondhand The School for Good and Evil. I've been wanting to read this for ages now, but I don't know if it's my type of thing, and I often just see it as like the whole series in a box set, so I managed to just get the first book, and I'll give that a try soon. Also secondhand, I picked up Boyfriend Material, probably around the time that I read Red, White and Royal Blue. I've heard this has got some similarities to it. It's got some fake dating, it's LGBT, and it's quite cute, so we'll give that a try at some point. I then picked up this stack. This was all from the same person, funnily enough, that I bought off, but they were selling off the Complete Heroes of Olympus series, which I believe is the sequel series to the first Percy Jackson books, and they were selling it for a really good deal, and I want to read them all. I haven't finished the main Percy Jackson series, but then I want to get around to all the books, basically, by Rick Riordan, maybe in 2024. So, saw this whole set. It's all in amazing condition. So I nabbed that. I then had my pre-order of the Illumicrate version of Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I still absolutely adore these stained edges. It is absolutely stunning. I didn't love the book, unfortunately. You can probably see that in my November wrap-up. but I read it, so that was one chunky thing that I bought that I have at least read. They had a grand opening for the new much larger venue for Queer Lit, which is my local LGBT bookstore, and as part of that they were kind of doing like a deal that day, so I bought some books to support them in like their first week of opening. I bought In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado because I really loved her body and other parties. This came out first, I believe. I don't like the UK cover as much as the US cover. I'll just overlay that here. I think the US cover is stunning, but we just kind of have these kind of boring covers, unfortunately. But I really loved her other book. She had an essay actually in that horror Queer Reflections on Horror. It came from the Closet book as well, which was really interesting, so really excited to get to this. I also finally picked up a book that has been on my radar for a while, which is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I'm probably going to read this for Winterween, actually in January, as I realise it fits a lot of the prompts, because we have witches, it's purple, it's not set in winter, but it fits quite a few of the prompts, so I'm probably going to read this in January. I then have another special edition. This is the Illuma Crate October pick, I believe, After the Forest. I really like this edition, mostly for the end papers. It's kind of like a Hansel and Gretel kind of retelling, like after the fairy tale, so I'm quite intrigued to read this one. Both Fairy Loot and Illuma Crate, as you'll see shortly, did very similar foresty fairy tale kind of things. And if I'm honest, I prefer the sound of this one to the one that Fairy Loot did. I then went to a author event for V. Schwab, and I picked up this absolutely gorgeous edition of The Fragile Shades of Power, which is her new book. I haven't actually read The Darker Shades of Magic yet, but it is something I'm going to be getting to hopefully next year, and I don't really want to read it until I read this one, until I read the original series. Also at that event, it was hosted by Sarah El Arafi, and she had some of her books there as well, and I've heard a lot about her, so I picked up The Final Strife. I think this is a signed version as well. Yep, signed version. I think the Fragile Threads of Power is also signed as well, so some really nice additions. Then I had the Afterlight book arrived, so that was Last to Leave the Room. Really love how beautifully and deliciously creepy this is. Not too long either, so hoping to get to that. Then we have the one I was just talking about, which was the YA Fairy Loot book for October, The Forest Grimm. Some gorgeous sprayed edges. I guess it's more Red Riding Hood based, I suppose, from what I could tell, but I don't love the premise to this one as much as to the other, but I will give it a try. I then picked up I think this is a Illuma Crate. This is the sequel to The Luminaries, which I did pick up earlier this year, I think, or last year it may have been, and I did read it for Aurelium back in April, I think. I didn't love it. It was a 3-star, but I kind of enjoyed the world and the characters enough to want to carry it on, and these editions are absolutely gorgeous. It's a really nice matching edition. I don't know. Here we go. Yeah. It's a different shade of red on the sides here, but like, yeah, this is them together. They are really nice. So I'm hopefully going to get to this sometime in the year. I then also picked up, again, this was a couple of pre-loved books that I bought off somebody who was selling them on. So I managed to pick up The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I picked up The Lies of Loch Lamora, which is something I've heard a lot about and want to get to at some point. I also got An Enchantment of Ravens with that, and My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. So on to the last stack of books now. Remember I was talking about reading Darker Shade of Magic last year? Yep, here it is. I managed to pick up this really nice bunch of special editions from somebody who had read them and was just passing them on. They've got nice little ribbon covers, and I believe they are, hold that there, yeah, really like gorgeous under the cover. Hello. They're like really gorgeous under the cover as well. They've kind of got these really nice alternate dust jackets. They're a little bit worn, but generally in really nice condition. And they don't really look like they've been read much. They're just a little bit battered on the outside, and I don't really mind that. So yeah, I picked up the 3 books in that series. So I will finally read them next year. I've loved everything so far I've read by V. Schwab. Invisible Life of Ada LaRue and Vicious are the main ones, so I'm just really hyped to read like the series that I know she's kind of most popularly known for. I then, of course, picked up Iron Flame. I have not read it yet. I'm not in a rush to read it. I am looking forward to it and I'm going to enjoy it, I think. But I'm just not in a rush, so I haven't got to it yet, basically. It might be a January read for me, potentially. I also picked up the Broken Binding edition of Bookshops and Bone Dust. I did a little unboxing for this, but it's got some gorgeous bright edges and the original art, which I really like. I'm not so keen on like the holographic covers that are around for it. When I was in Newcastle for booktube meets, I often like to go and pick up a book if possible whenever I go somewhere new as just kind of like a memory kind of thing. So I went to Forbidden Planet there and I picked up That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. I love the new covers that have come out for this, and yeah, it just looks really cute and cozy, and yeah, we'll see if I like it or not. We'll read that at some point next year. Speaking of booktube meets, the event organizer, Hannah O'Donnell, actually had 2 of her own like self-published books, so that were just there for people to take away. So I'll definitely be reading these and giving them a little review in the future. The first one is Fat Lip, and then we have the Bridesmaid Survival Guide. I then had a very exciting pre-order come in, which was for the final volume of Heaven Official's Blessing, which is a series I adore. I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this like special limited edition. I was thinking, oh, we'll get like a poster and art card or something. They gave us so much stuff. They was like have art cards of like the little postcards of like literally all of the different covers in the series. There are 2 posters. There's like this gorgeous bookmark. There's like a little paper craft thing. There's a, can I get it out? Like this double-sided notebook with the main characters, stickers, and yeah, like 2 gorgeous posters. There was so much. I was not expecting this edition to be as good as it was. I really got my money worth on that, and I will hopefully finally start reading this series. I've only really know this series through the animated series at the moment, which is on Netflix, but I'm dying to actually read the novel versions of it. Then it was Illumicrate's November book, I believe, which was Starling House. This was in an unboxing. I really like this. I think it's a really unusual take on how they've done books. I don't think they've really done like a book really like this before, where they've got this kind of transparent overlay. And another gothic story, so I'm excited to read that. I then got my last Fairy Loot book, which is A Scarlet Alchemist. I've decided to discontinue collecting Fairy Loot for now, but this was a very pretty final edition, so yep, finally we are on the last 6. So these first 4 are ones I picked up just the other day on a little shopping trip with a friend of mine. I purposely had gone out to pick up 2 specific books, and he ended up with 4 because that's just what happens. But I picked up Till Death Do Us Bard by Rose Black. I fell in love with the cover of this straight away, and then I read the premise, and it's everything I want in a fantasy book, essentially. It's like a cozy fantasy about this couple, like a kind of like a grumpy sunshine kind of couple, and one of them disappears and he has to go and look for him, and it's just super cute. So yeah, I am really excited to read this, hopefully soon. The 2 books I wasn't expecting to pick up were A British Girl's Guide to Hurricanes and Heartbreak. I really loved the first book by this author, which was A Cuban Girl's Guide to, it says it here, Tea and Tomorrow. It was really wholesome, really sweet, not as focused on romance as I was kind of expecting from like the marketing and stuff, so I'm assuming this is going to kind of be the same, but that was like, it made her like an auto-biography for me, basically. So I saw this was in like the buy one get one half price sale, and I had to pick it up, and because it was in the buy one get half price, I also picked up Assistant to the Villain, which I don't know if it's going to be good or not. I've heard mixed things about it, but it sounds really fun, so yeah, I picked that up as well. And then the other book, which is what I'd actually gone out for, was Heartstopper Volume 5. I will definitely be getting to this very soon. I'm trying to avoid spoilers right now and doing okay for it, so we'll see if I can. But yeah, I've got the latest volume. I'm really excited to read it. It also came because my local queer lit store, they did these little bookmarks as well, kind of like promoting it, which is what they send out when they like actually send out the copies. So they are big supporters of Heartstopper, but they had this gorgeous display in the store as well. It was super cute. Okay, the last two books, which are the ones that arrived today, unexpectedly. I have a physical copy of an ARC. This is my first ARC I've ever received, so I'm really excited. I had the PDF copy for it, and ironically, I was just about to start it today. And then this just turned up. I was like, perfect, because I'd rather read physically than electronically if I can. So this is Ashes to Ashes by Stacey Willis, at Stacey Ashley Willis on Instagram, and it has a release date of in December 2023. So yeah, this is like a really nice arc as well. So I'll be getting to this probably in the next day or so, I imagine, because I do want to try and read it before its actual publication date. For those who don't know, does it actually have the premise in here that I can read to you, just so I'm not guessing the premise? So I'll overlay the cover of what it's going to look like in publication. It actually is released electronically December the 15th, so tomorrow technically from when I'm filming this, but the hardcover isn't coming out until January the 5th. So the book is the dark YA, I believe, fantasy, and I'll just read you the premise now. I'll be doing a proper review of it once I've ever read it, most likely in my January wrap-up. So, Alexander Graham's mother died from heart disease 15 years ago. Everything kept going downhill from there. Coming out for who they are plagues Alexander's mind, but their father is severely conservative. Then, having to move back to their hometown, Alexander dreads seeing familiar faces, Louise Barnes being one of them, their childhood bully. Louise is stuck in a medial stage of reform because she's rather preoccupied with investigating Shane Hyde, the only person in town without a demon. Demons, long shadowy entities that drain their host's life and energy, have taken up residence in Pine Creek, Oregon, a place cut off from the outside world. Alexander wants nothing to do with Louise, though she becomes clingy when a demon claims Alexander's father, but Alexander is left untouched. It's only a matter of time before Shane hears about it and confronts them, and when he does, the two cause sparks to fly, but only hell would know why. This one sounds really interesting. It has a lot of really interesting rep in it, and yeah, I am really excited to read this and be able to give a decent review, and it's a really nice arc, so thank you to Stacey Willis for sending me this. The last book, which arrived today, is a book I was not expecting to be released right now. I thought it was going to be a January release, so I was so surprised when I had an email from Waterstones telling me that they dispatched this, and I was like, it's not due out for a while, surely. But it is Emily Wilde's Map to the Otherland, which is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. So excited to read this. I really liked the first book. I have it up there somewhere. It's a little bit shorter, I've got to say, than I was kind of expecting. This definitely looks thinner than the first book, but I'm really intrigued about where we're going. Basically, the story is kind of a cozy-ish fantasy, but it's about a scholar called Emily Wilde who is creating this like encyclopedia and doing research on fairies across the world. And she kind of like comes to blows with this academic rival of hers called Wendell. And it was a really good read. It went places I wasn't expecting it was going to be in the first book. I really enjoyed like where the story went, and I'm really excited to see how the second book goes. So, and look, I even like matched my top to it. Because I was so excited about it arriving. So the first cover of the book gives me like winter vibes. It's set in a Nordic country. This one very much kind of gives me spring autumnal vibes, I guess. It's really pretty cover. It's like a dark green on the underneath. So yeah, I don't know if they just moved the publication up all of a sudden because it was ready, or if they just accidentally sent mine out early, but I'm not upset about it. I may even try and fit this in December, but I feel like it's probably going to be more of a January read for me, but really excited to get to this. Okay, if the lighting's changed, it's because I just realised I filmed this whole video without my ring light on, and it's getting dark all of a sudden. So I usually always have my ring light on, and I forgot this time, so if it was a little bit dark, that's probably why. But yeah, that is all the books I've hauled since August. That's about 59 books, I believe. And yeah, let me know down in the comments, I guess, if there's any of those books that you think I should really get to ASAP. I really want to make it like one of my goals for next year is to get through as much of my physical TBR as possible. So yeah, let me know if there's anything I really do need to get to. And until next time, stay safe, stay cozy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!